Welcome to the Women's Football Show here on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm Kerry Pollock, Alison McConnell is here and Hearts forward Kathleen McGovern joins us as well. Let's have a look at the results from the weekend. It was Rangers 4, Glasgow City 1. Partick Thistle suffered a 5-0 defeat at the hands of Celtic. Aberdeen saw off Hamilton in a 3-2 victory. Montrose took all 3 points in a 2-1 win away to Spartans. And of course a 2-0 win for Hearts against Hibs on Friday night. Kathleen, an eventful 20 minutes for yourself on Friday night. Can you talk us through that for us?
Obviously it was good to score. It was a bit of a roller coaster for me, but the main thing was the 3 points, and I think that actually when we went to 10 we still dug in deep and we actually deserved the 3 points in the end, I think.
Do you feel as though you're a wee bit hard done by?
I would say so. We'll see what happens like this week, but there'll be probably another tackle the same and somebody will probably get a yellow, but these things happen and just have to work hard now and get myself ready for the semi-final at Hampden.
Is that the frustrating thing for you, that it's a wee bit inconsistency you feel with these things?
These things happen. It's a learning curve for myself. I'm still young and I'm definitely learning for that, so just work hard and be back for the semi-final at Hampden.
Was that the first red card of your career?
No. No.
Well, 6 points now separate you and Hibs, 11 points separate you and Glasgow City. If we just have a look at the table just now, are you guys at the point where you can look ahead of you rather than what's behind you?
Obviously we want to secure the 4th place now. Obviously beating Hibs on Friday night makes us 6 points clear of them. Or how many points? 6?
6, yeah.
6. Obviously we play Rangers and Celtic this week. We'll be looking for a win in their games or just keep kicking on against the top 3 and see where we can go.
It's interesting when you look at the table and obviously yesterday's result at Broadwood with Rangers beating Glasgow City quite emphatically. Do you see it now just being a 2-horse race at the top?
I think yesterday it made it a 2-horse race for me. I was at the game, obviously I watched it, and I think that if City wanted to challenge, we had to have won yesterday, but I mean, don't write City off because everyone did that last year, didn't they? So, but nah, I do see it being between Rangers and Celtic now.
Were you surprised it was such a margin between the two sides?
I think that Rangers just took it to the next level in the second half, to be honest. I thought they were really, really good in the second half, so I think it was hard for City. Fiona Brown going off, obviously, which was nice to see, so I think that made a difference as well.
How much of a loss will she be, Ali, for City in these next run of games?
Absolutely huge, and I have to say we don't know what the injury is, but you would have to fear the worst just judging by her reaction in the game. I think she looked very upset going off the pitch. I hope I'm wrong. It looks as though it's a very serious injury. I'd hope it was wrong because of course she's got a history of ECL. She's had to come back before from so many. She's done it, I think, 4 times. I think she's done it. It's a huge injury to have to come back from, and I think you see the impact that she had from Glasgow City in a very brief period of time, just come back in January. I think for me she's been City's best player across recent months. I think it'll be devastating on a personal level for her if she's out now for a concerted period of time, and I think it'll be a real blow for City too. And I think that in itself would be tough to take, but I think coming also on the back of a very limp second half performance against Glasgow City, 7 games remaining, 7 points off of Rangers, 6 points off of Celtic, and of course that second place comes with it, a Champions League spot. I think Leanne Ross has a massive job trying to galvanise that team and trying to keep them focused and not allow it to derail them completely between now and the run-in.
You were at the game at the weekend. What was your overall analysis?
Yeah, I thought it was a fairly even open 45 minutes. I think I actually thought Glasgow City could perhaps feel a bit aggrieved at the penalty. I wasn't sure. I just thought she got a touch on the ball before she took her down. I thought it was a bit harsh. However, the penalty, the quality of the penalty itself, real hard expensive, fantastic penalties, rifled it into the top corner, absolutely no chance for Lee Gibson, and then Lauren Davidson restored parity. And at that point I thought Glasgow City had started well. They'd created a couple of good opportunities. They looked purposeful, aggressive in the open exchanges, but I think in the second period Rangers steamrolled over the top of them. I think finished 4-1. It might have been more. It could have been more. I think very emphatic winners, and psychologically what that does is interesting now. I think you've seen this Rangers team set a tone, set a pace consistently this term. They've already banked a trophy. They could go on and win a domestic treble. I think now you're realistically looking at a straight fight between Rangers and Celtic at the top, and of course they play one another. I think it's the 6th of May. They play one another in that next game, and if both keep winning, as you would expect they will now, that could be a huge game. It could really all come down to that game.
Well, let's just see what the Rangers manager had to say over her win at the weekend.
Literally, that's what we've got to do. Each game as it comes, we've got to take that. We've done that for the majority of the season, and I think people thought I was probably joking when I said it's one game at a time, but you can't take any game for granted. We've said this. We couldn't look at Hearts before we played this game today. We couldn't look at Thistle before we played Hearts on Wednesday. We've got to make sure we're fully focused, game in, game out, and you know, it sounds silly, but each game's kind of a cup final when it comes down to this point. And I think this was a big one ticked off for us mentally today.
What's impressive, Kathleen, for Rangers is that for Jo Potter that it was 4 different goal scorers at the weekend. It's not a one-woman team. She's not relying on the same person to deliver the goals every weekend.
Rangers have certainly got the depth in the squad. Even the players that they take off and then put players like Kirsty Howitt on, it's incredible, to be honest. But no, I thought they were really, really good in the second half. Deserved winners, as you said. So
Mia McCauley for me is just so impressive. I think for 17, she came off the bench, obviously scored a goal. Lizzie Arnott's goal was fantastic, but Mia McCauley's goal was every bit as good. Fantastic strike. Yeah. And I think from the second she was introduced, you just have a sense. She oozes confidence at the minute. You can just sense, like, really on her uppers just now, like, just looks to make an impact, really positive, really direct. And I think Rangers have a very good depth of squad. Celtic too, I think Natasha Flint for me has made a massive difference to Celtic. I think Amy Gallagher, I think there's an argument to say Amy Gallagher might be the best passer in the league, but Natasha Flint gives Celtic a different dimension. She gives them a real physicality, very clinical. She's an absolute handful for teams to deal with, and I think that could be, I think it's a really intriguing head-to-head. Now, it's slightly different from last term. Last season we were looking at a 3-way fight, and I think Glasgow City looked as though they were going to unravel. They had been way out in front. They had a fairly commanding league, and it was reined in. There's a very different narrative around it than what it is this term, and it's interesting, hugely interesting how they recover from that game. And also Rangers need to go to Hearts this week, which I imagine for you, Kathleen, you'll be gutted to be missing it.
Obviously frustrated, but I feel like the players, we have a real depth in the squad now. I think everyone's back for injury. We only have one out long term. But Oriam's a hard place to come. We always play well there, so hopefully we can get a result.
And you've already had a draw against Rangers
already
this season at Oriam too.
Yep. So no, we really play well there. I think that it's weird because the pitch isn't so good, but we actually really play well there, I think. Is
that the thing? You guys have come off in the back of a huge result on Friday night. Quite a statement win as well over Hibs. Is there a freedom in a game like this, do you think?
I think, like, we're the underdogs going into it. The outsiders probably see Rangers taking all 3 points. But now we're really confident after Friday, especially down to 10, good performance. So now we'll be going into this game on Wednesday night fully confident.
Are you guys much closer to the top 3 than what people might think from the outside looking in?
Maybe, but we just concentrate on ourselves and, like, hopefully we can secure 4th place this season, and then we'll kick on.
Are you surprised that Glasgow City have fell out of that front running? Not to count them out, yeah, we've still a long way to go, but they're not as tight as what we were saying as last season. Yeah,
I think that Sunday's game, but they had to have won that game to keep themselves in it, and obviously they lost it, so... But as you say, don't count them out yet.
Yeah, definitely. Celtic, they didn't take the foot off the gas against Partick Thistle, obviously. What impressed you so much about Celtic this season in particular, Ellie?
Yeah, I think it's been a funny season for Celtic. I think obviously there was that period around Christmas when speculation around Fran Alonso's position became very difficult to ignore. They drew with Hearts. That was the first real blip, I think, in their season. And then when Elena Suduka first came in, I think it looked as though Celtic were going to lose their rhythm completely. I think 2 big defeats to kick off that reign. They lost to Rangers and they lost to Glasgow City, but changed shape very quickly, reverted back to the style and shape that they had under Fran Alonso. And I think since then they've been very consistent. I think you could look back to the game at Ibrox when they drew with Rangers as a bit of a turning point. I thought they competed very well that day. I thought Natasha Flint had a chance when Celtic were 1-0 up, that she could have put them 2-0. I think it would have put them in a more commanding position. But I think that might have been a turning point for Celtic. And then, of course, then they go and follow up. They got the statement when they've inflicted the only domestic defeat that Rangers have had all season on Joe Potter's side. They beat Glasgow City then at Petershill. And I think Petershill is a tough ground to play at, a tight pitch, the crowd right on top of you. I think those are big wins for Celtic. And I think if you have to have any ambitions of delivering in the title, of claiming a title, you need to be able to beat the bigger teams. You need to be able to beat Rangers, and Celtic need to beat one another at Glasgow City. And I think obviously the front two have done that this term. I think it's a very intriguing run, and I think Celtic have never won the title before, and Suduka spoke about the fact that this is a squad that are determined to make history. The opportunity's there for them, but I think I could bet that Rangers and Celtic, that none of the two of them will drop points unless they're playing one another now.
Wow.
So I think it may all come down to that game between the two of them.
Well, Kathleen, we find ourselves in a bit of a similar situation to the men's league, where albeit the top two are the other way around. Who in your eyes is more likely to drop points, or do you agree with Ali that it's going to be that one game that it'll come down to?
She fancies that Hearts are going to take points off
on Wednesday night. I fancy us on Wednesday night. I think it'll be difficult games for everyone that plays Rangers and Celtic, to be honest. But hopefully on Wednesday we can take points off Rangers. But I think that the two teams are really, really good, and as you say, they have the depth in their squads. You see that even yesterday in the Celtic game, that even players that they put on, it's crazy. But hopefully on Wednesday night we can take the points off Rangers, to be honest with you.
Absolutely. What's the message from Eva going into these games? You've got a double header against both of them coming up now.
Just concentrate on ourselves, really, do what we've been doing. Obviously we beat Partick Thistle 3-0 away at Petershill, which is a hard ground. We obviously had confidence going into the Hibs game, and 2-0 with 10 men. So we're flying with confidence, hopefully, and just the same as every game, get the ball down, move it, and see what happens on Wednesday and Sunday.
I think almost now, very similar to what you mentioned about the men's game, that there is a test of nerves. You know, it's about who copes with that pressure most, who can handle moments of adversity within games and not panic, who can just stay focused, stay calm. And I think that's when experienced players come to the fore. So when you look at Rangers, players such as Jane Ross can be so pivotal to that. When you look at Celtic, like the likes of Kelly Clark, Caitlin Hayes, that spine of experience just to keep things steady. But yeah, I think it's fantastic for the league. I think you want it to be as competitive as possible for as long as possible. I think what last season's finale done was shine a light on the Women's Premier League that maybe gave it a level of exposure it's not enjoyed before. It's very difficult to sustain it. But I think if you have that intrigue, it keeps a focal point on it. I think it creates an interest around it. You saw record attendances 3 times last season. The domestic attendance record was broken just because it got so intriguing towards the end. It would be fantastic to see that again. And of course, Celtic playing at Celtic Park on Sunday again, a game that you're unfortunately going to have to miss out on. But I think you want to encourage fans to get along and watch games. And I think when it's so live and every point counts, I think that encourages an excitement around the product.
Just to go back to your point about the experience in a team, then you look at Glasgow City, who have got vastly experienced players, international level as well, yet they've seemed to have fallen back a bit. What's that to do with?
I think maybe it's just about the depth within the squad. I think Celtic and Rangers this season have looked stronger at points, not across the entirety of the campaign, but certainly at points. And I think City, there's a really interesting aspect for me when I was looking at the table last night and comparing it with the table a year back. The goal difference between Celtic and Rangers and between Glasgow City is quite significant. Last term it wasn't quite so pronounced. There wasn't quite such a gap, and I think that's maybe reflective of Celtic have scored more goals than anyone else. They've got a real firepower about them, goals coming from every area of the pitch. Rangers have been very consistent, goals coming from different players and all chipping in. But I think Glasgow City have toiled for an element of creativity in games at this season, and maybe just toiled to put teams to bed when they've dominated games too.
Just to go back to yourselves, Kathleen, we've seen before we started the show today that you feel Hearts has got the depth on the squad now that the players can come on and start to make a difference as well.
Yeah, as I say, we've only got one longer term injury. Thank God everyone's back now. And I do feel like you do have players on the bench that are coming on, and it doesn't really matter who's starting and who's on the bench. So, it's good that everyone's back fit, and especially getting to this end of the season where it's Sunday, Wednesday. We obviously have the semi-final to look forward to as well. So, that's good that we have the full depth back.
How much confidence does that give you as well, especially when you're going into training knowing that you've got a full squad there to take on?
That's good, and I think that since everyone's been back, the vibes have been so much better. We had a wee break at the international, and I think that everyone's come back really flying, pushing each other, competition for places now as well. So that's been really good place to be.
Well, we are in amongst award seasons that is upon us. Ali, I'll start with you. Is there anybody that you think in the women's game who should be up there nominated-wise?
In terms of Player of the Year?
Yep.
I think Rachel Rowe, for me, would probably be up there. I think there's a few other contenders. I think Amy Gallagher at Celtic's had a very good season. When you look at the goal return, Natasha Flint, had she been here for a full season, I think just obviously a really strong contribution from January. I don't think that's quite enough just to take her in. Rio Hardy too, I think has contributed very well. I think Rachel Rowe for me has been the best player in the league this season.
Kathleen, obviously you would have casted your vote. You don't have to share who you voted for, but any names floating around that you think will be up there?
Rachel Rowe probably as well. Is up there. Caitlin Hayes, consistent this full season.
She was last year, wasn't she?
But I would agree, the names that you've kind of mentioned is the names that I would think would be up there as well.
Young Player of the Year? Anybody? Mia McCauley, perhaps?
I think Mia McCauley is a really obvious call, although there are a few. I think there's a few in the league, and I think that bodes well. I think it's important for the league to be able to see the fruits of a very young and emerging academy system. I think this is almost the first fruits of that coming through. I think Mia, she'll definitely be up there.
Yeah. Well, Kathleen, best of luck midweek and at the weekend. We hope you're back soon, of course, and we'll be back next week with some more action to look forward to. Thanks for watching.